Sometimes they're just spiteful, like the one kid, and I swear it was not true, but I was playing the king and he decided to shout each time I went on stage that my feet were smelling. I was even backstage like smelling my feet and asking my classmates like, do I smell? Because every time I got onto the stage, he'd be like, die koning se voete stink. And I'd be like, bro, can we just work together to make this work?
And he just,
yeah.
Hey everybody, and welcome to Department Spotlight, this show where we talk to our friends and colleagues about different things happening in the industry. Today we are talking about acting, but don't worry, I know Mark acted in one of the movies, but we're not talking to Mark. He's irrelevant. We're talking to some proper actors who you've seen in some of the other films. We've got Daniella who is new, sort of fresh to the industry, just graduated last year. But then we'll also she's going to be interviewing Tanja and Wentzel about just how acting works in South Africa, some tips that they have to share. I think this is going to be a very interesting chat.
Insightful.
Very insightful, I'm sure. And hope you guys like it. Let's go into that.
Hi everyone, I'm Daniella and I am a budding actress.
I am Wentzel and I pretend that I'm an actor.
Hi, I'm Tanja and these are my friends. Cool.
Yes.
Cool. So, welcome to the podcast, everyone.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
So, what kind of drew you to acting? Was it always like a passion that you had, or was it a surprise that just kind of came into your life where you decided to become an actor?
You can.
Okay. For me, when I was about 5 years old, the circus came to town. And in the town where I lived, that was the biggest event that could take place in that town. So everyone went, and that night I just thought I wanted to become a performer because I was a very strange child. And I was looking at all these adults being strange, but it was acceptable. So I was like, oh, I'll just grow into my strangeness. And then I did. So yes.
That's really cool. I love the circus. So
I do too.
Yeah, no, we
Yes.
definitely got that in common.
It's
like
beautiful.
clowns, we were talking about clowns earlier. Love clowns. Yeah.
I had a slightly more strange path. I was actually a dancer originally, and then I got injured and had to stop dancing, and then I took a detour to music, and then sort of came that way around to acting. Always sort of did it and was always performing in some way or another, but I didn't know that was something you could be, actually, because where I came from, it was something other people were, but it wasn't. I also think maybe there wasn't social media, there wasn't Facebook, so you didn't have this reference of this variety of things you could be. It was either you're like a lawyer or a doctor or like a chartered accountant or something. You don't really go into the performing arts. Only the weird people go into performing arts. And I grew up on a farm, so that wasn't something we did. You just did other stuff. But if I look back at videos of myself when I was young, it's very trippy. But I can't see myself having ever ended up anywhere else. It was inevitable, and I think that's why I don't have like a plan B, or if this doesn't work out, I'm gonna. It's just this has no choice.
I can kind of relate to that because I've always I also grew up dancing. I did a bit of ballet, a bit of modern dancing, and I also always enjoyed watching films, but I never thought of myself as a performer until later on. It just kind of came.
So
I
it happens.
can
It finds
kind
you.
of relate to your story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it was strange, and people, I don't know, somehow I find people have a very strange reaction to that, because a lot of people grew up going, I'm going to be an actor, or I'm going to be a writer, or whatever, and I just sort of went, I just want to be everything. I just want to be everybody else, and feel what it feels like in their skin.
And it's so much fun.
Yeah, and that I always did from no matter how young. I was always somebody else. I was missioning around on the farm pretending I'm
I also did
someone
that.
else. So I've always been an actor, but I never officially made the call of I'm going to go study to be an actor.
Okay. So you found yourself like mimicking things all the time?
Yes, mimicking things. I created characters and stories for myself, and I would walk around for like a week as a character.
Yes, I also
my
did
parents
that.
were like, "What the hell?"
And I would only respond to the character name, not to my own name.
No, I would get a hiding if I did that. So I did not do that. But I was always living in a different world, and it wasn't odd. It wasn't like I'm going to make this decision to be in this other world. It was just. Looking back now, I noticed like, oh my gosh, that's actually an interesting thing. Was always talking in voices with my dad because he's also a musician. So, you know, he's got a creative side. So he encouraged it and was always writing and drawing things and making stories.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I think it's very nice when your family backs you up with what you want to do.
yes, very,
It's also
very,
very
very
important.
lucky
Yes,
if you have one or two parents that are on your side. I think I really try not ever take that for granted because I know there are so many people whose parents literally resent what they do, and it's frightening actually, and it's already like a tough industry if you
Oh, for sure.
don't have your family on your side. It's
to support you.
yeah, it's even
really
more
difficult.
hectic.
So with that like being said, did you both go and study drama? And in your opinion, do you think a performer should go study if they want to become a professional?
That's a hectic question, yeah.
Because I know there are some like actors who truly inspire me who haven't gone to varsity to study drama, and they are brilliant. And then there are other actors who say that you should. And all of them are in Hollywood or really big in the UK. So I think either can work, but in your opinion, what do you think?
I'll start.
It's really tough, I know.
Okay, I'm the untrained actor here between the two
Oh,
of us.
really?
You did a lot
I
of
did
it.
a lot of courses.
Okay.
I did a lot of short courses. I never studied drama. I have an advanced diploma in contemporary dance and choreography, and I have a degree in English and creative writing. But like, I don't have a performance degree.
Okay.
I think the only place you could have done it back then was University of Pretoria and TUT actually back in the day. But once again, I didn't know that you could go study drama, so I never did. But I did make sure that I especially did a lot of acting for film courses, because I find that that's one. It's a technical thing that a lot of naturally gifted actors need to come to terms with. So I would highly recommend that everybody does a sort of a film acting course. And I just think it helps with terminology, and there are certain technical aspects that you can't be so highfalutin that you think they're not going to apply to you in some point. You know, it helps you to know what people are talking about when they're talking about a medium close-up or a close-up or a wide or an establishing shot. Like stuff like that is really important to know. Although probably not really important, but it helps.
Yeah.
And it helps you to know what's available to access emotions or to get into a character. And there are like really cool tricks and stuff that you can learn. But I mean, yes, you can learn them when you're on set, or you can learn them from your friends or your peers. But I do recommend that people don't necessarily have to go and study drama. But I do think you need to familiarize yourself with the various aspects of film and stage and TV. And you will learn on the job and always be willing to learn. But for me personally, I've had someone tell me they're glad I didn't go to drama school, a director, because he said it probably would have killed you or killed that thing. And I understand that coming from a dance background, like there's a certain rigidity to doing a degree that can dampen something inside. The uniqueness can be squashed, and then you're sort of expected to just be like all the generic other blonde
I
girls.
understand what you're saying. Yeah.
So I'm wary of that, but I do definitely think there is value in studying any field, because it expands you as an individual, it expands your skill set. But for performance arts, I think it's more imperative that you spend a lot of time with yourself, and as an actor, spend a crap load of time observing people, observing yourself, being really honest with yourself, securing your identity as a performer, and knowing what you want to do, knowing what you're headed towards, and working specifically on that. But that's just my untrained opinion.
moving on to you now.
Well, I study drama. It's a difficult question to answer because, as you said, you get, I mean, if you want to look at someone like, for example, Charlize, because everyone always talks about her, she didn't study drama. But then you look at someone like Meryl Streep, who did study it very intensely. I think a lot of the time it's also a personality thing. I'm kind of someone who wants to know what's going to happen. I don't want to be caught with my pants down. So I was a little bit of a Hermione Granger in college. I was very much like, what are we learning? How am I applying this? All of these things. But yes, I think what's more difficult is when you are a performer who is, because actors will always lean to either more camera or more theatre. And I find that people who are very experienced in camera have a hard time transitioning to theatre. Whereas if you come from a theatrical background, it's easier to adapt to camera.
I see.
But theatre is very much about studying and you know, finding your voice and using your voice and your body and everything. For me, I'm glad I did. I wish I studied somewhere else, but I'm glad I studied. But also to add on to what Tanja said, I learned a lot from the courses that I attended after I studied. Sometimes I think I learned a bit more from them.
From the other courses, the shorter ones.
Yes, like the film acting and Les Sac and so on. And also you learn on the job, you do. No matter how prepared you are, you're always going to learn something that you didn't know before.
Yes.
But yes, I think in the country that we live in, it would probably be safer to study because you have more options of what you can do career-wise. Whereas if you don't study, you are kind of, I mean, either way, you're taking a chance, but I think you're taking a bigger chance if you didn't study, if that makes sense.
Okay.
I don't know.
That's
interesting.
the reason is, or one of the reasons that is true is because, for one, we don't have a lot of open calls in South Africa, so for good reason.
Yes.
But you struggle to find an agent if you don't have a drama degree. Even if you do, I have friends who have drama degrees, you know, master's degrees, and struggle to get agents. And without an agent, you don't get an audition.
Yes. Yeah.
And
so you would say
even-
it's vital to get to one for sure.
Yes.
To try and
But
get an agent.
to join an agency, if you want to make it in this country, you need to join an agency, or you need to make really good movies by yourself. It's the only way to get seen by casting directors and things, and even casting directors who know you will not be made aware of a brief if you don't have an agent, because agents are handled by the PMA, and there's all these fees and there's all these arrangements that need to be made, and it's tough. I didn't have an agent for a long time, and it was a drought. It was incredibly hard because you just don't have any work.
With that being said, because you have done a bit of training, and you have done a lot of TV and film work, how do you make sure that you stay focused as a character and stop worrying about the crew watching and the camera being there? Do you ever think about it, or
No.
do you just?
I used to be intimidated by the camera because I was incredibly self-conscious of what I physically looked like. And the moment I have one of my acting teachers is Rajesh Gopi, and he's a beautiful, beautiful man and a wonderful, wonderful acting coach. And he told me that there is nothing as uninteresting as a vain actor. And I went, okay, I get that. So I stopped caring what I looked like on the camera. That's why I don't watch playback. I don't watch things I'm in necessarily unless my director Mark tells me to watch the rough edit. But I don't want to see myself because I don't want to get self-conscious again. Because the only time I'm aware of a camera is if I'm thinking, what do I look like on the camera? What do I look like on screen? And I think it's a bubble you go into with time and practice to Not be aware of, there's 50 crew members. When I did Seven Along now in August, that was quite interesting because you move at a really brisk pace, and there's people with cameras in your face and makeup, and it's quick, and you have to do an emotional scene, but everybody around you is joking and having a laugh. I mean, they respect you and leave you alone, but it takes a lot of discipline to not want to
click into.
I want to party along and also make jokes and stuff. So you have to have a very clear vision of your character, and I have specific things I do with that, or to help me stay focused. But I'd say focus and don't care about the camera. I mean, it obviously depends on the director. You get directors who are very camera focused, or you need to play towards the camera, or you get directors who go, you do you. The camera will find you. This is basically what I need, but it's working together to make it happen. But there are technical things.
Yes.
If you've got some certain lens and you've got a camera up in here, you need to learn how to literally
you need to know how to adapt to it.
So that's why I recommend doing film acting courses.
All right. Cool. So being very fresh with the acting industry, how are auditions for you? Do you have a set process when you get to an audition to try and stay calm, click into the character? Any sort of
I love auditions.
Technique? Really?
I absolutely
so you're
love
excited
auditions.
to go to them? Okay.
Yes, because I'm going, I was in America for a while, and I attended a panel with a whole heap of, working actors in Los Angeles, and it's a very interesting field to observe there as an attendee to a conference. And the guy was like, look, Mark Ruffalo, I think, had something in the 800 auditions before he booked his first job.
Wow.
And your job as an actor is not to get the part. Your job as an actor is to audition and to show up prepared and to know your crap. And
I've heard that, yeah.
And the thing is, if you're going to go every single time to an audition and it's going to be the worst day of your life and you're going to stress eat and it's going to be heart palpitations, fight or flight, and you hate every minute of it, babes, don't do it.
Yeah.
Because it is going to kill you. And the thing that sort of, I think, helped change my mind was the whole notion that these people want you to get the job. They really are on your side. They might not be, clapping and dancing and cutting on when you come in, but they really
might even be very mean.
Some of them might be really, really horrible, but they want you to get the job because that makes their life so much easier.
Yeah.
And I just see it as an opportunity to perform. Booking work is an absolute privilege. So if you get a script, bloody hell, do the work, even if it is an audition for some product and it's weird, it's a strange script, just go for it. Make choices, approach a commercial script the same way you'd approach a film script.
Yes.
Make established choices, be brave, play, have fun, because otherwise what the heck are we doing? There's so much time spent and you sit there for hours, and I love it. I did a commercial audition today and it was just such fun. If you approach it with a mindset of, gee, what can I learn today? And how can I make this fun and interesting? I mean, sometimes obviously you don't go out there and make a complete fool of yourself if it's a dramatic sort of thing. But you can learn a lot about what you do in front of the camera, and how you can learn to control your breath and control your breathing, because obviously you get nervous. I mean, we were having a discussion the other day about how when you stand up in front of a group of people to talk, or in front of a camera or a casting director or whatever, it is incredibly unnatural. Your body goes fight or flight, I'm being hunted immediately. So you need to find a way to harness that and not be stuttering through your lines and going, oh shucks, they want you to get the role. And they want to see you do brave and interesting things. Sure, you might, and the other thing, with film, I mean, it's 99% of the time got bugger all to do with your performance.
Yes, definitely.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes.
It's about how you look.
It's about how you look. It's about
that's
broadcasters. It's about... But the lead character's best friend is a redhead, so they need your character to be a blonde. It's really the finest detail that has absolutely bugger all to do with your performance. You can have the most amazing one. Even the director and the writer will be going, yes, we want her. And broadcaster will go, sorry, we want so-and-so because she's got more Instagram followers or whatever.
Yes, that also happens.
It's so got nothing to do with you. So I just went, screw it, I'm gonna have fun. And I love it. I absolutely love auditions.
I think it definitely helps to like change your mindset, like you do, just to have fun and go for it.
I think for me, last year I assisted with auditions for Morphe, and I had to read in lines. And it was interesting to be on the other side and realizing that when an actor came in, I was never thinking, oh, I hope this guy makes a fool of himself. I wanted them to do well, even the people I didn't like, because I knew some of them. Because, I mean, this could be the person who gets the part and then we don't have to continue looking. But I think a lot of it also just has to do with just not caring about what this person thinks about how big your nose is or all these things, because you see them for a few minutes and then you leave. And you can't let those few minutes define your life. I mean, I do get nervous, which I think it would be a problem if I didn't get nervous, but not as much as I used to. I think the big thing for me is always I try to do a vocal warm-up before the time because that's a calming thing to do. So then I go in knowing that I kind of have my center.
Yes.
And if you have that, then even if they throw something at you, if you just maintain that, you'll be fine. And if you fall on your face, you do. And no one will die. So
he actually booked a commercial.
Where I made it was cool. What happened was the casting director. Well, it was one of my very first auditions, and I had one line to say, and then it was my time to speak, and I just I couldn't say it. And then, fortunately, she was a very understanding woman, so she made me go again, but then she didn't cut. So then I finished the line, and I stood there, and it kind of got awkward, and then I don't even know what I did, but then that thing was the thing that they liked. And then I got the part. It was very... But yes, that was an audition where I didn't do anything that I was supposed to be doing.
Wow, that's
It's usually those ones.
amazing.
Those ones where you go out and you go, oh, that
Yes.
why am I doing this? I'm
Yes.
the most horrific actor. And then they go,
Yeah,
so...
when I got the call back, I was like, but why?
Yes.
I don't understand why.
I also think it's very important for film, TV auditions that if you prepare the scene or the sides, whatever they've given you to prepare, that you aren't so rigid in the way you are determined to perform it this way.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
That the moment they go, okay, but we want to have it slightly more sarcastic, and then you just give them the same delivery.
Yes.
I was at a workshop this weekend with a director that says that's one of his biggest issues in casting is he will tell, seasoned actors, okay, I see the choices you've made and it's great, but let's just try something, just 180 it for me. Do it completely in the opposite intention. And they struggle. And I mean, it is hard. So I got to a point where I put very little... I mean, you obviously, when you get sides, you have a general idea, especially if it's a long-running show or it's a series or they've sent you a synopsis. You know more or less where the character's headed. So you're not going to go off the chart completely. But you prepare more or less in line with what you think they might like to see from the character. Maybe zhush up a line or two or give some options there. But also then leave it. Make sure you know your dialogue, that even if they tell you, they just don't worry about the door. Just keep standing. You're not going to lose yourself but I practiced with the door. So,
Yes.
And that's a big issue for beginner actors is like they mime.
We had
and it's weird.
An audition where it was just coincidental that we both went. But in the script, it said your character and mine were both walking, and we got to the audition and they made us do it sitting down.
Oh, okay.
And now you'd prepared this whole thing for standing, and now you're sitting, and it changes everything.
It changes your energy.
Yes, it does. It does.
And it reads differently on camera. And stuff like that, I tell people, don't rehearse it.
No.
Know your lines. Don't rehearse the scene. Know why you're there, who you are, where you're coming from, where you're going, and know what you have to say. But listen, because also you get readers who are actors.
Yes.
And they will give you something, they'll throw a curveball, and then you go, oh, crap, but I rehearsed that line to sound angry. And then it sounds weird. So you still have to be open to listening.
And there's a lady who's one of the top casting directors in this country who, she's done it with me and she's done it with a few other people as well, where she will just reach a point where she either changes a line completely or she doesn't say it. And you can see in the way she's looking at you, she's doing it on purpose.
Oh, okay.
To see what you do.
Yes.
She wants a natural response.
Exactly.
Yes,
Yeah. So
Okay.
sometimes they do try and throw you a bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's
Well, that's good to know. You just have to be
interesting.
natural.
Yeah, and just listen. Because if you stay listening and you don't have this rehearsed performance in your head, it's way more interesting to watch two people figuring it out than, oh, look how she's prepared it so perfectly and every syllable has this specific thing. Like, know what you're doing and then see what happens. It's way more exciting.
Well, I know you briefly mentioned to know your lines and, to not prepare it in a certain way, like you were saying. But when you learn your lines, how do you do that? What is your process for doing that and not getting stuck into like a certain tone or a certain way of saying things?
I had recently the privilege of working with the Meisner studio in Johannesburg. And I'd read the Meisner books, and this woman was offering an opportunity to learn a theatre piece. We actually both auditioned for it.
I didn't get
it. To train you in the way of how Meisner people would approach something. And his whole theory is sort of, with regard to learning lines, is you learn it with no punctuation. You just learn the lines. So then when you're confronted with whatever your scene partner says, you don't have a premeditated response. And it allows for a lot of interesting variations and a lot more, I find, authenticity and vulnerability in a scene, which for me is something as I strive towards as an actor, is to be vulnerable and honest and sincere. You don't want to have I'm angry now sort of. That's not why we're here. So I try and do that, but I find if you learn scene by scene and you learn the gist of a scene, it's sort of, the words find themselves. It's different with soap operas because you have to say exactly what is written there for camera work. So that is slightly more tricky. Wentzel's going to talk about his process now.
So yes, I have been studying Arthur Lesak's work a lot the last few years, and he has this thing that they talk about, they call it script marking, where you mark the different consonants that you want to hit, and you literally say the lines like that. Because especially for words that you might struggle with, or certain letters that you might struggle with, but after you've done that, it's stuck in your head. And what I also like about it is they have the different NRGs. So then you can play around with saying the lines like this if you're speaking in radiance, or saying them in buoyancy. So you do play around with a different way of saying it. And in a way, it also is slightly similar to the Lesak thing, where you don't take stuff like punctuation and so on into consideration. But I like to do that. I generally find that that helps me to learn lines. But I think also because I mainly do theatre, my long-term memory is quite strong. So if I read a script a few times and take a nap, I'll remember it when I wake up. So
that's amazing. The theatre process, the way of doing things, I think really helps to train your memory in that regard.
It does. Theatre is very much. I don't want to say it's kind of the brutal side of acting, but it is because you can get away with things on a set that you can't get away with on a stage. There is, and also if you study theatre, it is a little bit of a boot camp in acting. So yes, I do think that they kind of traumatized that into us. It's stuck. Yes.
Okay. And then if I could just ask for personal interest, what is your favorite medium? Do you have a favorite medium or do you like both?
I don't know. I like various things about both, or different things about both of them. I absolutely love theatre. I still walk into an empty theatre the first day of rehearsal, even the first day of somebody else's rehearsal, and I will sit there and be
in awe,
blown away by the endless possibility of a bare stage. It just feels like it is this blank canvas into infinity. And I found things in acting recently, which actually started with Yaku and a conversation we had in the first film we did together about close-ups, and it's made me look at film differently as a medium, as an actor. I love the process of film and what you can convey, and the stuff you can do is just sensational, and how it's very cohesive and everybody works together. But I found something unique in film that I haven't quite been able to put into words, that I'm still trying to figure out. But I think it's
I know what you mean.
It's
a feeling. It's a
feeling
that
thing
you get inside.
Yeah. But I was at a show of his about 2 weeks ago, and I literally sat there before they'd even started, and I went, oh my gosh, I miss doing theatre. There's something about theatre that's just
captivating.
Oh my gosh, it just catches you in a completely different way. It's energizing in a completely different way to film. But I love both equally, and everything else.
I think, well, I suppose because I'm also kind of a little bit of a playwright now. I mean, I guess I can say
you
that.
You can say that now. You're at Pixmark, it is official.
But theatre, I think the thing for me is, for an actor like me, because I'm a character actor, on stage I can be anything. I can play a witch or an old man or a child or anything, because I can get away with it on stage. On camera, my options are a lot less. I will only get casted as a certain kind of character. And because I'm usually playing more, the comedic relief or the villain or just the plain weirdo in the story, there aren't a lot of those characters in our South African films. They play it quite safe. So you have your romantic leads and your action hero and your damsel in distress. And those are the people that you constantly see on film. So, I mean, I would like to do one or two nice feature films just to say, I was there, I existed.
Got the experience.
But I will always go back to theatre because that's where I need to be. I don't know. It's what I need to do.
Yeah. Makes sense.
That's where you exist. That's your space.
Yes.
Yeah. It sits differently.
And someone once said to me that on stage, the actor is completely in control, whereas on camera, the actor has no control.
Zero, yeah.
So, and I'm a bit of a control freak. So
I like
to yes, I like to be more in control of my performance and what I'm going to do. Whereas on camera, I was reading an interview with Meryl Streep the other day, and she said that what a lot of people don't get is, for example, people always hammer on about, for example, a shot where a character is walking after something just happened. And she said that if the score is swelling and you have the lighting and everything, it can look like you're giving this profound performance, but you're just thinking about lunch.
Did she really say that?
She did, because that's not with camera acting. It's not so heavily on what is my face doing as on stage, where you would have to very clearly show that thought process. On camera, a lot of the time, you don't really do much, and it comes across as you are doing a lot, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay, that's
one thing I will sort of disagree with there is that if you don't have an active thought process in like a close-up, it is going
No,
to be...
definitely.
In a close-up,
Yeah,
But
it's
I'm
completely-
talking about like a shot where you're crossing the street.
Yes, no, those
Yeah.
establishing sort of things are...
Yeah, no, I mean a close up is a whole different ball game.
And that's, I think, with the technical aspect
Yes.
of film
Yeah, that
acting,
you learn.
it's just way different to stage. Stage technical stuff is very different.
It is.
And also with film, you know, you're working for, say, scene, you're taking it scene for scene or shot for shot even, not even scene for scene, and then you're done. Whereas on theatre, on stage, you've got this hour to hour and a half of continual concentration and focus and discipline, and it's just two very different disciplines. I don't actually even think they can be compared.
No, they're very
Honestly.
different. They're very
Okay.
different. And I think that's why in countries where people are able to, like for example in America or England, where actors are able to get away with completely choosing the one, they do that. Whereas here you have to do
all of
everything.
it. You do all of it.
Everything.
And then you did mention typecast. Do you think it's possible to like break through that, or is it very rare to do something like that?
Someone once told me that if you're getting typecast, roll with it until you're someone who can call the shots. Which is really frustrating. Someone asked me this weekend what sort of roles I always book, and I always book like the psycho, the druggie, the always like that, the darker roles.
Okay.
Which I like because they're very interesting characters. Honestly, I don't think romantic leads hold a lot of
No.
excitement for me as a lead option or as an acting choice. But the thing is, I will keep playing those characters until I can stand up and write my own film or go, you know what, I don't want to play this kind of character anymore. I'm going to take a chance and play the romantic lead maybe or whatever. But I do think it's tricky to break out of it, and I think it is such a finely timed thing. I haven't been confronted with it personally, so I don't have any experience in breaking out of it. But
is.
it's a strange thing.
Yeah.
Typecasting.
I think the big challenge is, for example, I was recently, I did a guest appearance in a comedy, and what happened was the actor who was supposed to play the part dropped out the day before, and they were all going crazy, and then the one producer remembered me from another show where I played a similar character. And he said, I know who can play a queen, it's Wentzel. And so...
So fun.
Yeah. So then I got the part, but I made a point of playing it very differently from...
The character.
Yes, like the first one was very extroverted, so I made this one very shy. And I think... because it's inevitable, I think, that you are going to be typecasted, but you need to... The challenge is to find the difference between those characters, because a lot of actors kind of get this thing of, oh, well, I'm always casted as this person, so I'm always going to talk like this, and I'm going to do every performance like
they get
this.
stuck in...
Exactly,
into
they
a
don't try
character.
to break their patterns. And I mean, that's what's going to show people that you are able to do different things. But a lot of it also has to do with just the right moment. A lot of the time, it's just you got to the audition and the person they actually wanted didn't show up, and then they chose you, or...
Or you get a director who chooses you because
Exactly.
you were typecast, and then he goes, hey, let's try something else, and then you end up in making completely different choices in this entirely different character. But I do very much agree, just because you get cast in the same sort of roles doesn't mean you have to approach all of them as the same character. You can find nuanced differences in every single human being, no matter how similar they are. So if you make a deliberate choice to make the character interesting for you, it won't read as, oh, it's just Tanja playing herself again, or Tanja playing this. I mean, you can see Jennifer Aniston in all of Jennifer Aniston's
Always.
roles, but there's something interesting in them that's makes you go, huh, okay.
You see a bit of uniqueness in
Each character,
she plays.
even if it is the gazillionth rom-com. I do think it gets very hard, but it's up to you to make it interesting, I guess.
For sure, yeah. And then just to brush on a bit of accent work, because I heard you do a variety of them, and they're really fun to do. So would you advise one to go for vocal training with accents?
Very much. If you are an English-speaking person in South Africa and you want to make it in the film TV industry, you need to be able to do Standard American and UK.
British,
I think I've never actually done accent training in my life.
Oh, really? You're so good.
She just does it.
I don't know why. I think I just have a musical ear.
Yes, it's
something to do with that. And my father and I, since I can remember, have always talked in variety of accents and just for fun to see how it goes. So if I know I have to nail a British accent, then I will monologue on the N1. Just random drivel in an accent for the entire trip, and it trains your ear. And I think it is imperative for people to do a Standard American, and even if you are Afrikaans, if you just want to take a chance, because there are so many international commercials coming through, learn your American accent. It doesn't have to be
voiceovers.
And voiceover work. It doesn't have to be this part of North Dakota, that accent. It can be just a general standard American, and practice it a lot. Listen to stuff, say it, repeat it, talk to yourself like a wacko. I've just found it helps. And the more you practice it, I was in a casting today where the casting director literally went, so just same script, but just do it with an American accent.
I would.
So you haven't rehearsed that script in that accent, and then every now and again this little South African accent pops up, but you have to get to a point where you can hoy the American like this,
just
and
like that.
it's trained, and it's worth it.
It is.
Yeah, and it's fun.
It is fun.
It is fun. Yeah. I think, yes, I mean, that's one of my weak spots, because I've been doing a lot of Afrikaans work. But definitely, I mean, it's something that I've been working on a lot, and I feel like I'm not as bad as I used to be. But I think that's also one of the things with tertiary institutions, where they don't quite realize what we need in the industry in terms of the training. And now I'm speaking as someone who received training. I look back and I think, it would have been nice if they had focused a bit more on accents and radio work and how to use your voice and all those things, as opposed to doing so much physical theater and, because you don't end up doing that in reality to make money. So yes, it's very important, and I wish that more people would realize it.
Yeah. In my tertiary education, I was fortunate enough to be told about doing accent work and radio drama. I just wish I had been told earlier in first year, so that I could get a lot more practice done in that time while you're studying. Whereas at the end, you still feel a little bit uncertain about these things, and then just going out into the world and knowing that there's so many different branches, which you could have kind of saved time and have learned that a lot sooner, would have, I think, helped a lot. But it's still good that they mention these things, because at least we're now aware of it.
Yes.
So with international work, would you say it is better to go down to Cape Town? Because a lot of people say that, or do you still get a lot of international coming up to Joburg?
I actually had this discussion with my agent about 6 months ago, where I sort of decided that from December to say, January to May or so, I would move to Cape Town and audition there. And we went to and fro, because it's expensive. Cape Town it is rough. And there's a heck of a lot of people down there doing this thing. So we decided inevitably that I would stay in Joburg for at least another 2 years, try and book more work here, that whatever's coming through Joburg, because there's a lot of big series cast in Cape Town and in Joburg. Yes. So it's not like you get no Cape Town exposure or no international exposure. It's just, I think we have a slightly warped perception regarding what's going on in Cape Town.
Yes.
Probably not entirely, but I think you're better off establishing yourself here.
I think it's also got to do with your category.
Yes.
Because I have a friend who she's a redhead with curly hair and porcelain skin and these green eyes. And she would get 5 auditions a day where she couldn't even go home. She had to put the different outfits in her car. But that was because she was so rare.
Yes.
That's also what my agent said, was it very much depends on what's in vogue down there at the moment. If they're more into like a European look or more a Caribbean look, it makes a massive difference in the amount of work you get. Like if you look like that, there's so much European stuff coming through that there will be more opportunity.
And also her American accent is very good. So she would sometimes show up and get requested for parts of, being like a 40 plus and she's in her 20s. But they'd request her because of her accent.
Wow.
So I think Cape Town is a lot harder on accents.
Yes. Agent also said, don't go to Cape Town if your accent is not
good,
on par.
not strong.
Yeah. If you're not 100% confident, don't bother going. And I don't know, it's brutal and expensive,
It is.
So you've got to, everybody says go try it out for season, which is around December to May. Try it out, see how it goes. But if you're not very secure in yourself as an actor and you don't know who you are, it has the possibility that it could wreck you.
Yes.
Because it is hardcore. And if you're just starting out, I would say stay in Joburg, book local work. There's all the soapies up here. Do soapy work, get comfortable in who you are behind the camera or in front of the camera, and establish yourself first before you go and chase the bigger things.
Hence the all-roundedness. You can't just stick to one thing.
Yes,
You've got
exactly.
to just go into
It's the same opinion I have about people go, oh, so why don't you just go to LA? Well, because there are 10,000 people auditioning for a
Exactly.
walk-on part. I prefer my pond. Thank you. At least here I speak the language and I know my people, and it's hardcore. It's vicious. So establish yourself where you are and then take a step from there.
Well, it's good to know that there's still a lot of work in Joburg if you are staying. Yeah.
There is, and there's, if you're well connected, and make your own stuff. Do things. Work generates work. It's an energy exchange. There's so much going on with film festivals coming up, and you can really do cool stuff and do other things. Work as an AD for a bit, or try a hand at writing or voiceovers, or expand your skill set. It can only benefit your performance, I think.
For sure. Agree with that. I don't know if we have... children's theatre.
Where dreams go to die.
Never said that.
I did children's theatre for the first 3 years, I'd say, after I graduated. And the problem with that is that, firstly, a lot of people use it to make money. So they don't do it well. And then a lot of the time you're in this show and the show is bad. And the birds in the sky know the show is bad, but you need to perform it now and you rehearse for like 6 hours. And I think it's a problem because we're creating the audiences and the actors of tomorrow, because those kids watching are very impressionable. And if you give them a show that's half-hearted, it puts them off theatre, potentially. It's also the place where I find that actors are done in the most. It's a lot of hard work for very little money. I've actually... Because those first few years I did children's theatre without my agent. It was before I joined her. And since I joined her, I actually got a part where I went and then I auditioned and I got the call back and they offered me a contract. And then I just said to her, I've worked with these kinds of people before, because I feel like there's kind of a children's theatre kind of person. And they're not the good kind. And even though they're offering me this contract, I'm not going to take it, because it can crush your soul. But at the same time, on a lighter note, it's very good for your acting. It's very good because it's very character-driven acting. And
I believe it's a good starting point for people who have just come out of varsity.
Definitely.
Yes.
I mean, what I mean to say is it's definitely something to do, but to be careful who you do it with.
I see.
Especially if you don't get the part through an agent. Because I think that's probably the kind of work you'll mostly get if you don't have an agent, is kind of the children's theatre kind of thing. And I almost want to say that to not be desperate. Like, if you're in this position and you know these people aren't treating you right, leave. Don't, because you end up selling your soul. If you stay in that situation, and I made that mistake a few times, and it's actually been a good 2 years since the last time I did children's theatre. And I think maybe I'm a bit too old for it now, because I can't play the relatable characters like Hansel or something like that. I would have to be a villain or a parent or something like that.
So fun.
Yes, and I mean,
So
the last one I did was I was a villain. I played the witch, and it was a lot of fun. The performances were fun. But what was happening backstage was just so bad that the last day I was so glad to just leave, even though I enjoyed the performance.
Okay.
Yes, I'm rambling on that note, but it's something that I did a lot of, and that I think the people making it should be more conscious of what they're putting out.
To be aware of what they're getting involved
Yes,
in.
because I mean, like I said, I was inspired to become a performer because I watched the circus. But if the circus had shown up that night and the clowns didn't put on their paint properly and they were just, not really feeling it, then maybe I wouldn't have been inspired, because that is what you are doing. You're working with little kids, and anything is possible with them. And if you give them one bad experience, they might just associate theatre with that bad experience for the rest of their lives, in my opinion.
I agree. Children's theatre is hardcore. You will never work as hard in your life. It is thankless work. It is really, really tough. I actually did a theatre piece with a director who said he wouldn't hire an actor if that actor hadn't done children's theatre at some point, because then he knows they know how to graft.
Yes.
It's really hectic, and there's no one babying you and taking care of your props, and your costumes don't get washed, and
No,
it's
they don't.
it's like it's hardcore, but it's great fun a lot of the time. And like, children are brutal audiences.
They
Like,
are.
they either buy it or
They
they
are.
don't. They are very vicious. Like, I got to a point where if they liked me after the show, I didn't do my job, because I played Drizella in Cinderella, and I literally got to a point where it's like, well, if they like me, then I wasn't rubbish enough to Cinderella. I have to be meaner to her, because and then it gets to a point where they will not come near you for photographs, because they're just like, no,
Yes.
you're mean to Cinderella and we won't talk to you.
It was like that with me with the witch. I actually made a few children cry. But at the same time, you need them to really hate the villain, so that they can, when the happy ending comes, it's more
Happy.
happy.
No, if they tell me where
Yes.
Cinderella is hiding, then we're missing the
I
point
had,
here.
I had a show. We did Three Little Pigs, and my pig was kind of like this nerdy character. Knapfuck.
Your pig.
And yes, and I think I had the stick house, and because I was trying to be environmentally friendly. That was the story that they had written, but it was very interactive with the kids, and so the actors would have to ask the kids, like, and my pig was very like a skeptic when it came to the wolf. He was like, there has not been a wolf in these woods for 20 years. And now obviously the wolf has appeared by this point, and he said to the kids, you don't tell, and if you tell, I'm going to eat you and whatever. But with every other show, when I would then say, right, children, there is no, and they'd say, there was a wolf. And then I'd find out, and that was how the story would continue. And there was just this one show where the kids decided that the pigs had to die. And it got to that point. Truly, it got to that point, and I said, right, friends, there are no wolves here. And they'd say, no. There aren't. And I'd say, and now because they have to give me the impetus so that I can move on, and they're not giving it to me. So I'm like, because now I'm talking to Mother Pig.
What did you do?
And at one point I'm like, because the children wouldn't lie to us, would they? And they were still not. They were like, no, there's no wolf. And I said, I mean, you can even ask the parents. And I think one of the parents said, there was a wolf. And then I was like, well, one person, there was a wolf, so there must be a wolf now. Yes. But they do stuff like that. Or for example, you'll have I remember another one where we had a lunchbox. And it had tinfoil inside, but the tinfoil moved. And this one kid just kept shouting, that lunchbox is empty, because it was. But you can't fool them. They will pick up on stuff like that.
Okay.
They're
very awake.
They are. Or sometimes they're just spiteful. Like the one kid, and I swear it was not true, but I was playing the king, and he decided to shout each time I went on stage that my feet were smelling. I was even backstage, like smelling my feet and asking my classmates, like, do I smell? Because every time I got onto the stage, he'd be like, die koningse voete stink. And I'd be like, bro, can we just work together to make this work? And he just, you get those ones. Or they'll have a random, like, if you have an interactive thing, one of them will put their hand up and be like, my sweetie is burning my mouth.
Yeah.
And you have to react to that.
And make them part of it. Yeah, it's very... Cool. I always tell people, don't think you're too good to do children's theatre. It really humbles you.
It really teaches you about improvisation. Because
I'm sure.
every show,
that's great.
You essentially rewrite the script with every show because the children decide how the show will go, not the actors.
That is so cool. Yeah.
So no, I recommend it. Test yourself and do children's theatre.
Yes. Yes, if you can survive that, you can survive anything.
Yeah, I think so. It's quite a hectic story.
I think the only thing probably tougher would be musical theatre, but I wouldn't know.
So, could you share a little bit of what you do know about musical theatre?
Well, I had it as a subject when I studied, but I didn't have very good lecturers. No, truly, I had, like, the lady was like, when we asked her about voices, she was like, okay, so you get the stuff like soprano, mezzo-soprano, tenor, bass, blah, blah, blah. And then at the end, she's like, so you decide which voice you have. I mean, I've always wanted to be a bass, so, that's how I became one.
Choice made.
But I think, that's kind of theatre on steroids. It's very...
Maybe physically demanding.
It's very demanding.
You need to be very committed to being good in 3 disciplines.
Yes.
And I think, honestly, that it's tougher than people think.
Definitely.
And, just because you're a good dancer doesn't mean you're a good musical theatre performer. Mm. And just because you're a good singer or a good vocalist doesn't make you a good musical theatre performer. Like, you need to be really strong.
Yes. At the same time, I do think it's a bit of a myth to say that you get a triple threat. I don't really think that anyone is ever truly a triple threat. You could be really good at 2 things, but I find that the actors or the musical theatre performers who are the good actors are usually not good dancers, or if they can sing very well, the acting might not be as good. I don't know that I necessarily would, at least not from what I've seen on stage, that I necessarily agree with the idea of a triple threat.
Okay.
But it's grueling hours.
It is.
And if you want to go into musical theatre, do panto. with Janice Honeyman. That'll work you. And if you don't love panto, don't do musical theatre.
But I
It is
also
hectic
find
on your
that,
body, your voice, your
Yes.
everything. It's so taxing. I have so much respect for those people. I've had to go to a few musical theatre auditions, and yeah.
But I've noticed it also has moved into a period now where if you didn't actually study musical theatre specifically, you'll have a hard time getting into the audition in the first place.
Okay.
So it's a very small
That's good
community.
advice
It's
to-
a very small community. So if you want to be a musical theatre performer, study musical
Study
theatre.
musical theatre.
And
yes.
it's very demanding. You know, those people are on tour for 3 years. So I think that's another reason, honestly, if I'm really honest, why I wouldn't be able to do it. Like, I don't want to do the same show for 3 years.
No, I would die.
I want to be more variety.
No, I mean, I know I know
Totally.
people who've done like 300 performances of one show.
As the same
It's a lot.
character. Yeah.
Like, that's heavy, you know.
And
But
it's a completely different discipline.
Yes.
Obviously, I have no frame of reference. Maybe I'd love it, but I
And
like
then
romance.
with the soapy, because you do have to stick with the same character, do you think that's totally different then?
I think it's different because your lines are different and you've got different scenarios
Still
coming
living,
at
still
you.
breathing a different.
Yes, and I know when I did the soapy now that when I spoke to characters who had been there for 3 years, you go through these periods where you are so bored with your character. It is unreal. And then, because then it's another character's turn to have some crisis of some sort and somebody's dying and coming back to life and I don't know what the heck they're all doing. But then it's somebody else's turn to be the drama queen and then it's your turn again. So your characters go through these lulls because, I mean, every character can't be in peak mode for like 3 years consistently. I mean, it's a soapy, but there's still boundaries, I guess. But I think if you've got a really strong writing team, your character will grow and will make different choices and will surprise you sometimes. I was at a writers group where one of the writers who was writing regularly for a soap said that he's constantly in issues with production because he wants the characters to do interesting things and they keep telling him, no, but the character wouldn't do that. And he goes, well, people do things out of character all the time. So it's up to you as an actor to push your character when you feel you can and to develop it and to maybe have a different opinion or a different perspective on a scenario than you would have had 6 months or a year or whatever ago.
Just like life.
Yeah, just
Yes.
like that.
Yeah. And then as a performer, to be considered a professional performer, would you advise them to get involved with extra work or to avoid that?
I did a lot of extra work in the beginning and I learned a lot about how things work. But what I would say is try to not do it for soapies because it might just happen if you've been an extra for the soapy a few times, then they might not let you audition because they'll say, oh, but you're a familiar face in the story now, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Even though no one really pays attention to the extras. But for example, they might, let's say it's like a restaurant and they might dress you up as a waitress. And then the next time you go there, they do it again. And then they're going to be like, no, but you played a waitress, even though you didn't have any lines. So they won't let you audition.
Oh, okay.
So
that's,
I'd say it's better to do it for something like a movie or a series or something like that where it's not going to jeopardize you in the future.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, I agree. Not commercials or soapies. Films, you can learn a lot.
Yes.
Especially if
definitely.
you're a sort of more featured extra. If you can try and get into the
Great.
featured extra stuff, you learn a lot. But other than that, let it go.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we're wrapped for tonight. So thank you very much. It was lovely to speak to you and to get all your advice. And I'm sure everyone who watches this will also be.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, no, it's
it's
been
fun.
awesome. Yeah.
Good talk.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Float, my story is out.
Cool, thanks for watching, and thank you to Tanja, Wentzel and Daniella for sharing their insights on acting. If you're interested in any of the shirts that Jaco and I are always wearing in the BTS and any of the crew members, please share your interest in the comment box and other ways of contacting us. And then we'll try and set up a store. Cool, so thank you for watching, and like and subscribe. Do the things that YouTubers tell you to do on the other videos that you watch on YouTube.
And until next time, go out and make your movie.